Hello and welcome. My name is Abiola David and I'm a Microsoft and Databricks MVP. As I promised in this video, I'm going to be showing you this high-level data engineering solution using Microsoft Fabric Data Pipeline. In this video, we're going to have 40 CSV files that we're going to ingest in our Fabric Lakehouse file store, and we're going to read, filter, and loop through to copy into different tables in Microsoft Fabric Warehouse. And we're going to configure notification using the Outlook email address in the data pipeline. So let's get started. By the way, if you're new to this channel, please click on the subscribe button and toggle on the bell icon to be informed of new videos. Before we start architecting the installation, I'm going to show you the 40 CSV files in my downloads. So I'm going to swipe to my downloads and I can see the region orders customers folder that contain this bunch of CSV files. I'm going to press Ctrl A to select all the files, and at the bottom left hand corner I can see 40 items selected, which translates to 40 CSV files. Now let's make sense of some of them. Basically, I've got the customers East 1 to 5, which is just 5 CSV files, and then we have the customers North 1 to 5. Similarly, we have the customers South 1 to 5 and customers West 1 to 5. So this is approximately 20 CSV file when I select at the top. So there we go at the bottom. So we have the 20 items selected. And in the same vein, I've got the orders East 1 to 5 CSV files, and then we have the North 1 to 5, and so on and so forth. So in total, I've got 40 items. So we want to go ahead and create our workspace. We're going to create our folders to organize our lakehouse, warehouse, and our data pipeline. And then we're going to ingest this bunch of CSV file into the file store of the lakehouse. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So I'm going to come back to the app.powerbi.com, and then I want to click on workspaces. Let's create a new workspace. I'm going to call this one demo, and once I'm done, I'm going to click, or let me just call this one demo 1 and click on apply at the bottom. So in a matter of seconds, the workspace is now provisioned. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to organize all the workloads. So I'm going to create a folder for the lakehouse, and I'm going to click on create at the bottom. Similarly, I'm going to create another folder for the warehouse workload, create, and I want to create another folder for the data pipeline, and I'm going to click on create. So the 3 folders are now created. So first, we want to provision the lakehouse within the lakehouse folder. So I'm going to give this a click, and I'm going to click on item, and I want to search for the lakehouse, and I'm going to click on that. Let's call this one sales underscore LH as the name of the lakehouse, and I'm going to click on create. Whilst that's going on, I'm going to return to the workspace, and I want to go outside this folder. Now let me just rename this. This is not properly named, and I want to open the warehouse folder. So I'm going to click on create item, and I want to set for the warehouse. Let's call this one sales underscore WH as the name of the warehouse. Now that is provisioned. Now I can elect to create the customers and orders table, which is going to be housing the data coming from the file store of our lakehouse, but I can do all of that in the data pipeline, which of course I'm going to do in this video. So I'm not going to create the table within this warehouse because I can also create that. So I'm going to come back to the lakehouse, and then I can see the file. So this is similar to the storage account in ADLS Gen 2 or the Azure Blob, and I'm going to click on this ellipsis. So I want to click on upload, and I want to upload not a file but a folder. So I'm going to upload all the files in that region orders folder. So click on that, and I'm going to click on this, and I want to go to my downloads. So I can see the region orders customers, double click, and I'm going to click the upload functionality at the bottom. So I can see this will upload all files from this folder. So this is fine. I'm going to click on upload, and I'm going to click on upload, and I can see all the 40 files being ingested into the file store of the lakehouse. Excellent. So I'm going to close this, and I can give this a click, and I can see all the files. I can even investigate by clicking on either of them, and I can see the content, which is really awesome. Now we can go ahead and create our data pipeline. So I'm going to go outside the warehouse folder, and then I want to go into the data pipeline folder, and I want to create a new item, and I'm going to search for data pipeline. So let's call this one data pipeline anyway. You can use whatever name you choose, and I'm going to click on create. All right, so the data pipeline canvas is now ready for us to use. So the first thing I want to do is to create what's called a get metadata activity. So I'm going to search for that here and click on that get metadata activity. So basically, since we have 40 files in our lakehouse, so I want to get all the child items of those files. So I'm going to give this a meaningful name. I'm going to call this one get metadata of all files from lakehouse. You can use whatever name you like, and then we want to go to the settings tab. In the settings, I'm going to provide a connection, so click on this, and then I want to search for the sales underscore LH where all our files are located in the file store. So click on that, and I can see the root folder. So of course, we're not pointing to Delta tables, we are pointing to file store. So click on these files, and then for the file path, I'm going to click on browse, and I can see the region orders customers folder. So I'm going to click on that. Now, I'm not going to select any of the files because we want to work across all the files. So I'm going to click on OK at the bottom, and that's sorted. Now I'm going to click on the binary format because our data is a delimited text. Now this is really not important, but I love to maintain the best practice. So I'm going to specify delimited text as the file format. And very importantly, we need the field list to get all the child items coming from the file store that we are pointing to. So I'm going to click on this new, and then for this drop down, I want to choose the child items. Now this is going to give us all the list of the 40 files within that file store of the lakehouse, which is really important before we apply the filter activity. So after doing this, I'm going to just click on validate to check for any potential errors. And once this is sorted, I'm going to click on run, and I'm going to save and run the get metadata activity within the pipeline. So I'm just going to wait for some couple of moments, and we're going to see all the 40 child items. All right, so this succeeded just in a matter of 4 seconds. Excellent. Now I'm going to close this for now, and I'm going to go to the output section. So click on this, and I can click on this to expand. So I can see for the child items, this has been delivered in the key value pairs of JSON objects. So I can say I've got the name, which is the key, and then the value is the customers east1.csv, and then we have the type as the file, and we have the same thing for the 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. So essentially, when you scroll to the bottom, we have 40 records, similar to what we had in the source. All of this, excellent. So after doing that, I'm going to close this for now, and let me just move this up a little bit. Now, we want to go ahead and filter the child item coming from this get metadata of all our files. So essentially, we want to filter all the customers CSV files and the 20 other CSV files in a separate activity. So for that, I'm going to click on these activities, and then I want to click on this ellipsis, and I can search for the filter activity. So click on that. So basically, we need 2 of them. So I need to get 2 of them up. And let me just move this down a little bit. And I'm going to connect on success from the get metadata across to the first filter. And let me just move this down. And I'm going to come here. Again, drag the on success from the get metadata to the second filter. Now let's go ahead and give this a wonderful name so that we can be able to differentiate as we progress. So for the first one, I'm going to call this one filter all customers files from get metadata, and I'm going to copy this, Control C to copy. Let me quickly just reuse that in the second filter. Click on this and move this up a little bit, and I'm going to get rid of this, and it's going to throw an error because we're having the same spelling. So I'm going to actually replace this with orders. So this is going to be the filter all orders files from get metadata. Let me just correct the spelling, and I'm going to do the same thing for this so that we can align properly. Excellent. Now we want to go to the settings of the filter because we need to actually include the item we want to filter and then the condition. So for the item, I'm going to parameterize this. So I'm going to click on add dynamic content, and then we want to get the list of subfolders and files in the given folder. This from this get metadata of all the files coming from our file store. So I'm going to click on this, and then we can say this is populated automatically, which include the name of the get metadata, including the output, that is we are returning all the child items, which we're going to be filtering based on the condition that I'm going to specify in a moment. So I'm going to click OK on this, and then for the condition, I'm going to come here, and again, we want to add a dynamic content. So click on that. Now we want to actually filter the items that contains, in this case, customers. So I'm going to use the @ symbol and use the contains function. So I can see that here. So press the tab key. So basically we need two arguments for this. So the first one is we want to filter all the items. So I'm going to click on this filter all customers items. So this is populated, and then we want to get the name. So I'm going to use the dot name. And for the second parameter of that function, inside the single quote, we want to only filter all the files that contains customers, because if you look at the file, you can see we have the customers at the beginning, and then we have the orders. So inside this single quote, I'm going to type in customers. Now this is case sensitive, so you want to make sure you type in customers exactly the way we have it in the files. So once this is sorted, I'm going to click OK. Now this is done, and then I'm going to move to the second one at the bottom, the filter for the orders. Again, I'm going to move this up a little bit, and then we can go to the settings. Now in the settings, I'm going to, for the items, add a dynamic content, and then again want to get the list of the subfolders and files in the given folder. Again, this is going to populate the metadata of all files pointing to the child items. So click on OK. And then for the filter condition, again, we want to add a dynamic content. So for this, I'm going to use the @ symbol and use the contains function, and I'm going to press the tab key. So for this, we want to actually filter based on the items dot name that is coming from the get metadata, and inside the single quote, I want to filter the orders because the files actually contain orders as the beginning of the word. So we are filtering that specific child items that contain orders. So I'm going to click on OK. That is sorted for now. So I'm going to just move this down a little bit, and let's move this down a little bit. Now at this point, I'm going to just go ahead and run the pipeline because we want to actually see the result of the customers and orders that have been filtered from the get metadata before we can move to the next stage. So I'm just going to wait, and this should be ready in a matter of maybe 1 minute or less. So I'm going to pause the video and continue once this is successful. All right, so in just few seconds, less than 1 second, this is successful. It succeeded. Excellent. Now let's start with the customers filtered files. So I'm going to click on output, and I can expand this a bit. So basically we can see we have the 40 items, and which is pointing to the customers and the orders, and then we have the filtered items count. So basically we have narrowed down to 20 customers files, so which are the customers East 1 CSV and so on and so forth. Excellent. I'm going to close this, and let's do the same thing for the orders. Again, we're going to see that we have 40 items that have been filtered down to 20. Excellent. Now, because we're going to be performing an iteration, we're going to be looping through each of these files, all of these files in the orders and the customers. So it's really important we note this value because all of these results are stored inside this value in our JSON objects. So I'm going to be using this for each activity to loop through all the files in the customers and the orders. So I'm going to close this, and please don't forget this is value, and you can say this is in the proper case where the V is capital letter and then the ALUE small letter. So I'm going to close this for now, and then I'm going to move this down a little bit. So we want to use two for each activity. So I'm going to come to the activities, and then we can see the for each at the top. Yeah, just two of them. For the filter all customers files, that is the first one. I'm going to just drag on Success Connect, and let me just move this a little bit to the back and position this at the bottom, and I want to drag this across. So again, I'm going to give this a wonderful name. So for this, now I selected this, and this is pointing to the customer. So I'm going to call this one for each iteration across the customers files, and I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to come to the second for each. Let me just get rid of this, paste, and get rid of this customers. and I'm going to call this one orders files. So excellent. Now we need to actually specify the settings. So basically we can perform the iteration either in a sequential manner. So for that, I'm going to click on this, hey, perform that in a sequential manner. And then for the items, I'm going to click on the add dynamic content. We want to actually iterate over the customers. So I'm going to set for this filter all orders. So this is orders anyway, not customers for now. So filter all orders files from get metadata, and I'm going to come here, put in dot value, because the dot value is the point where all those 20 orders files are stored. Now this, and then click OK. Okay, so that is now sorted. So I'm going to come to the second one, which is the customer. So I'm going to click on this again, go to the settings of the for each and move this up a little bit. And again, we want to perform this for each iteration sequentially. And for the items, click on this, and I want to get the filter all customers files from get metadata, and then again we want to point to the dot value. So I'm going to click OK. All right, so once that is done, we can now go ahead and edit the for each activity to use our copy data activity. So now we are within the for each activity for the customers file. So I'm going to click on this and then want to add to canvas, and let me just move this in the middle, and let's just rename this copy data for customers. And I'm going to come to the source. Now for the source, again, I want to point to my sales lakehouse. So click on that, and I want to point to the files. And again, I want to maintain this file path type as file path. And then for the file path, I want to click on this browse, and I want to click on the folder. Again, I'm not going to select any of the files because we want to actually copy dynamically based on the for each and the filter activity coming from the get metadata. I want to actually copy all the, in this case, the customers files and write into our warehouse. So I'm going to maintain this, and of course, I'm not going to perform any recursion here. So I'm going to untick this because I have all the files in a single subfolder. So I'm not going to perform any recursion. And then for the file format, it's important. I'm going to choose the delimited text. Now I'm going to click on the preview to preview the content of the customers files. And there we go. We have the columns and the data in the customers files, one of them, which is cool. So this simply means that everything is working as expected. And then I want to come to the destination, and then for the destination, I'm going to click on the connection, and this is going to be our warehouse. So this is sales warehouse, and we, as I mentioned before, I'm going to auto create the table. So I'm going to click on this, and then I'm going to define the name of the schema. Let's call this one DBO. And then for this, now since we are working with the customers, I'm going to call this one customers, and that's going to be the table name. And of course, I'm not going to bother by coming to the mapping because everything will be marked accurately. I've done this several times before, so it worked. So this is done for the copy data activity within the for each activity pointing to the customers files. So I'm going to go out, and let me just move this down a little bit, and we want to do the same thing for the orders. So again, I'm going to click on this pencil, and I need the copy data, and let me just call this one, let me move this one up a little bit. Let's call this one copy data for orders, and let's come to the source. In the source, again, I'm going to choose the same sales LH lakehouse, and then I want to point to the files, and then again I'm going to click on the browse, and then I want to point to the regions orders customers folder, and I'm going to click on OK without selecting any of the files. I'm going to uncheck recursion, and I'm going to choose the delimited text. Okay, and I can click on the preview data so as to make sure that we have data returned. So everything is working absolutely awesome. So I'm going to close this for now, and let's point the destination. So for the connection, this is going to be the sales warehouse, and I want to auto create the table. And again, I can store the table in the same DBO schema, and let's call this one orders table. And once that's done, we can go on and step out of that for each activity for the iteration for the orders files, and things are looking good. Now we would like to send notification upon success to our email, so I can use the amazing Office 365 Outlook email. So I'm going to click on this. I need two of them, so I want to actually monitor the how this actually performing, whether it failed or not. But I'm not going to bother covering whether it failed, so I'm just going to focus on the success. So I'm going to connect this to this, and I'm going to connect the for each here across to this. And then we can also do the settings for our Office 365 Outlook. And for the general, I'm going to call this on. Now, this is actually pointing to the customer. Let me call this on customers notification. And for the settings, now I'm going to sign it into my Office 365 Outlook account and select my account. So I'm going to do that right now. After selecting your account, you're going to see this allow access confirmation required. So I'm going to, of course, allow the access, and that's going to pop up the information for me to put in the email address, subject, body, and so on and so forth. Now I'm just going to send this to myself. So I'm going to copy this and paste, and I'm going to come to the subject. Let's call this one customers pipeline success. And for the body, I'm just going to say, hey, this pipeline with pipeline ID, and I can use this dynamic content. So I'm going to grab this dynamic content, and I'm going to say and with pipeline run ID, this succeeded. Okay, so that's enough. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the other one. So let me just copy this email address quickly. And then for the orders, let me just move this up a little bit, and we need the configuration. Let's call this on orders notification. And then for the settings, I'm going to again need to sign in and pick my account, and I'm going to allow access. So again, I can see the information. I'm going to paste the same email, and let's call this one orders notification or whatever you would like. And I'm just going to say almost the same thing in the body of the message. Hey, this orders pipeline with pipeline ID, and I'm going to use the dynamic content and pipeline run ID, and I'm going to click on this succeeded. Okay, so that's enough. And so we have configured the notification upon success. Of course, we can also do the same thing upon failure, but I'm not going to actually extend this video unnecessarily. So this is fine because I believe strongly everything's going to work fine. So once we've done all of this, I'm going to, because we've actually used quite a lot of activities, so I'm going to come back to home, and then I can click on validate, and this gave me no errors. Excellent. Now I'm going to click on the run and click on the save and run. Now, because we are working with 40 records, 20 for the customers and 20 for the orders, this is going to take some time, about 15 minutes, in order for the entire activities to run. So I'm just going to pause this video, and once everything succeeds, I'm going to carry on this video. After the running of the data pipeline, all the activity succeeded, which is really fantastic. No error. So we can see the get metadata with the green check mark, the filters, we have the for each activity, and then we have the email notification. Absolutely brilliant. Now let's check the output tab and see the bunch of steps. And when you look at it, from the top, we have the get metadata, the filters, and then we have the for each activity. Now, don't forget, we're actually iterating over the 20 files in the customers and the 20 files in the orders. So I can see for the orders, so when you count, we have the copy data for each of the files. So when I scroll to the bottom, you can see we have quite a long list. So this tells you that the iteration was performed 20 times for the customers, and when I go to the bottom, I can see for the orders, the customers. So this for the orders at the top, and then when I go to the bottom, I can see we have the 20 times for iteration for the customers file, copying from the file store of the lakehouse into the warehouse. And then we can also see that the for each activity for each of the customers and then for the orders also succeeded. Absolutely fantastic. And then we have at the bottom the email notification, so I can see the email notification succeeding also. Now I'm going to quickly log into my Outlook, and I can see the two notifications. I can see the orders notification, and this is the message: hey, this orders pipeline with pipeline ID, succeeded. And when it comes to the second one for the customers, you can see this succeeded. So the email notification is actually working. Absolutely fantastic. Now let's go ahead and check our warehouse. So I'm going to maintain this, and let me come to this tab, and I can go to the same workspace, that is the demo one, and I want to launch the warehouse, and I can click on that, and we're going to be able to see our two tables, that is the customers and the orders. Excellent. So when I click on that, the customers and then the orders, I'm just going to wait for some couple of moments in order for the whole thing to deploy, and there we go. So we have all the record for the orders, and I can scroll down to the bottom, and we have 5 columns and 1,000 rows. When I come to the orders or the customers, I can see also we have all the 5 columns and so on and so forth. Excellent. So this is how we can architect this solution. Now, before we wrap up, I'm going to quickly come back here, and we can just check the output of one of the copy data for the customers. So when I click on this, I can see the data read, data rating, and then we can see the file read 40. We have the source peak connection, and then we have the rows and so on and so forth. So these are more information that we can actually go through. So this is how we can architect this high-level data engineering solution to process 40 CSV files by getting the metadata, and then we apply the filter activity, and then we perform iteration over all the filtered for the customers and then the orders, and then we use the copy data activity within each of the for each to be able to copy all the customers and the files, the customers and the orders into the sales warehouse. So I trust you enjoyed this video. If you do, you like, please comment, share, and follow me for more videos, because there is a lot to come. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.